Welcome all golfers, and thank you for tuning in to our short but sweet US College and University Golf webinar. I'm Dan, head of Summus College and one-time student athlete golfer myself at the NCAA Division 1 university called Belmont in Nashville, Tennessee. My aim today is to give you a brief overview of the opportunities that might be available to you in the US collegiate athletic system as a golfer, and to help you simplify and maybe explain some of the terms, processes and infrastructure that you might come across in your journey to getting recruited as you look to take your talents as a student athlete stateside. Here at Summus College, we don't want money to be a factor when you're considering the US as a potential option. We want to make sure you know exactly what you're signing yourself up to before you make any big financial commitments. So we try to give you all the key bits of information, this session included, free of charge. If you find the next 15 minutes useful, I strongly recommend heading over to summuscollege.com, where you can find loads more videos, tutorials and student athlete guides that will help walk you through every single step of this process to getting that dream US sports scholarship. Thanks for joining me today. Okay, so golf. Where do we begin? During my time at Belmont University, I played 4 years of NCAA Division 1 golf. I captained the team in my final year, whilst also studying at the business school, where I studied finance and marketing. A key factor in me unlocking my first job in sport at Nike, where I worked for 8 years before I set up Summus Sports Group and ultimately Summus College. I had a fantastic experience in the US, but that was as much due to luck as it was judgment, and I want to try and use my time with you today to teach you some of the lessons that I learned the hard way and give you an introduction to the US college golf system and some things that you should be looking out for as you embark on this exciting next step in your journey. The best way for me to do this is to break it down into a number of sections, so this is what we're going to run through. Firstly, we're going to look at the sporting infrastructure. Then we're going to look at what a team and a season would look like in the US. We're going to talk about how good you need to be considering the US as an option. We're going to break down conferences and the universities. We're going to talk about other things you could consider, like climate, coaching and location. We'll then get onto scholarships, what you need to know and how you should be considering them. Academics, as much as it might not be a priority, is something that you need to think about. We'll then talk about timelines, how long you need to think about this before you're looking to go out to the US. And last but not least, I'll give you my next steps or key tips for moving this process forward. So let's start by talking you through the college golf sporting infrastructure. There are about 1,200 teams to pick from across the 3 governing bodies of sport in the US college system. At the very top of the ladder, you've got the NCAA, which is split into 3 divisions: Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3. Division 1 is going to be your big schools with your fantastic facilities and your really strong golf programs. In NCAA Division 1, there are about 300 men's golf teams to pick from and about 250 women's teams to pick from. You then work down the system into Division 2. These are probably slightly smaller schools with slightly less resources, but they can have some really strong and exciting golf programs. In Division 2, there are about 210 to 215 men's teams to pick from and about 140 women's teams, depending on the year and the programs available. At the very bottom of the NCAA ladder, you've got NCAA Division 3, which will encompass schools that don't necessarily offer sporting scholarships, but may give you great academic opportunities, such as Ivy League schools. There are about 280 to 290 men's teams in Division 3 at any one time in the NCAA, and about 160 to 170 women's teams. Underneath the NCAA, you've got the NAIA, which is the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. This is considered a lower level of sporting competition compared to the NCAA, but will also have some great opportunities if you find the school that's right for you. There are about 180 men's teams in the NAIA and about 140 women's golf teams in that division. NJCAA, or Junior College as it's more commonly known, is a 2-year option for athletes that might be struggling from an academic perspective. There are some fantastic golfing opportunities in Junior College, and it might be a way for you to get in, build your experience in golf and improve your academic grades. There are about 215 men's golf teams available in Junior College, about 93 women's golf teams. So once you pick your division, you want to have an idea of what a season might look like. Golf is defined as a spring sport within the college system. That means the majority of major competitions are played at the start of the calendar year or in the spring term. If you join a team in the NCAA, for example, you'll still play in the fall. You'll probably play 5 or 6 competitions in the fall or the autumn. and you'll play a similar number in the spring, but that will just include your conference championships, your regional championships, and your national championships. Basically the events and the tournaments that define how successful your team is that year and the ones that really matter. So when we talk about competition, what does that competition look like? Well, we firstly know it's going to be super high standard. A lot of incredible golfers have gone through collegiate golf systems, and they make up a large proportion of the LPGA tours and the PGA tours. But when you get to the competitions, you're going to have 5 team members there per university, with 4 scores to count per round across 3 rounds of golf. Normally those competitions will take place on a Monday and Tuesday. You'll travel on a Saturday, practice on a Sunday, and head back on a Tuesday evening. It's an incredible team experience where you're vying for your score to contribute to your team in each and every one of those rounds, but at the same time you'll be scored individually, and at the end of the tournament you'll have a team result with a winning team, but also an individual. At any one tournament you could play 10, 15, 20 schools at one time and be playing against up to 100 other collegiate golfers. For me, I travelled around the whole of the southeast of America, based in Nashville, Tennessee. We went down to Alabama, across to Florida, down to North Carolina, played some fantastic golf courses, and had some really good experiences while I was on the road with my team at Belmont. So we've already said that a travelling team will consist of 5 individuals, typically going to any one tournament. You might have 1 or 2 athletes that go as individuals, but generally the squad, which makes up the team, will be bigger than that. At the university, on the team as a whole, you'll have probably between 8 to 12 athletes, but it could be bigger or smaller depending on the school, the resources, and the year. You might have 4 athletes that leave in one year and they're only replaced by 2 athletes coming in that same year. How are teams selected? Well, that depends on the coach. He will pick, or she will pick, ultimately who travels to tournaments. Oftentimes there will be a number of places that are there for qualifying, so you will play your teammates in competitions throughout a week or throughout a month, and the people with the best scores or the best averages will be selected to go to a tournament. But there are also coaches' picks, as we used to call them. That would be a coach has the discretion to take a player that he thinks or she thinks has been playing really well, or indeed who has a great track record at a particular competition, or is a senior who's going to bring some great experience. It's a really interesting dynamic in college golf because it is an individual sport, but you're contributing to a team. At the same time, you're competing within that team for places on the bus or on the plane. I liked the dynamic and became very close with my golf teammates at university, so you find a healthy balance between competition and camaraderie. But what does the team look like beyond, say, the 10 athletes that are on the team? Well, you'll have a number of coaches and support staff in every team. So every team will have a head coach. That might be a head coach for the men's team and a head coach for the women's team, or one head coach that oversees the whole program. That will depend on the university you're at and how they set up their program. You'll generally have an assistant coach or a graduate assistant coach who is someone who has played college golf themselves, either for that team or another team, and is looking to develop their skill set or becoming a pro, and they support the coach with travel, coaching, and general administration around the team. The bigger teams might have an additional golf specific staff member who helps with coaching or swinging or whatever it is that you need help with, but generally the rest of the support staff will come from the wider university athletic organisation. So a strength and conditioning coach might be a strength and conditioning coach for the golf team, but also the soccer team. Same applies for a physio or a sports psychologist. They'll serve the entire athletic department, but they are generally very highly qualified and really add value to your experience, or at least they did to mine. What facilities will you have? Well, that again will depend on the type of university you go to. If you go to a big school like the University of Florida, you're going to have a golf course on campus. You're going to have 8 TrackMan bays. You're going to have indoor practice facilities. It really depends on the school you're at. For me, Belmont University, we had some resources on the university. We had a swing studio in one of the buildings, and we had a gym that we could use obviously as much as we wanted to, but to travel and get that real golf course experience, we needed to go up the highway about 30 minutes to the golf courses that we would have access to and to the practice area that we could use. Typically, we had access to 2 or 3 golf courses, and we'd play them across the course of a week or a month. So a question I often get asked about the US college golf system is, how good do you need to be seriously exploring it? Well, there's something for everyone, but of course how good you are is going to determine the type of experience you have, college you can get into, and ultimately the amount of scholarship support you can get. If you're looking to play high level serious golf in the NCAA at, say, Division 1 level, then I think realistically you need to be looking at a low single figure or scratch golfing ability or better. But if you're a mid-range single-figure handicap, kind of a 4-5 handicap, looking to build your experience over the next couple of years before you go over to the US, there are going to be loads of opportunities for you. Not only are you going to have a chance to improve your handicap and get yourselves better, but you can also look at opportunities in Division 2, in the NAIA, or indeed in the NJCAA. Those colleges and those programs are going to offer you a great opportunity to have a fantastic experience in the US, but also give you the resources and the focus to improve your game and potentially unlock an opportunity at one of those bigger Division 1 schools. There's something out there for everyone, so don't be put off if your handicap isn't exactly where it needs to be today. Remember, you have time, and oftentimes coaches will be looking for results as well as just handicaps. So what have you achieved on the course? What competitions have you won? And what other events have you played in? But also remember, coaches aren't recruiting golf scores, they're recruiting people. So how you can add value to the team beyond your golf is going to be really important. So have you got experience playing as a team? Are you a good contributor? And does your academic kind of scores and standard match up? All kinds of things will be considered. So don't just shut down this opportunity just because your golf is a work in progress. As you go through this process, you're going to hear the term conference bounded around a lot. So let's jump into that term and try to define what it means. A conference is a group of universities that are generally located in a relatively similar location and have access to similar resources from a sporting perspective. A conference is made up of between, say, 10 to 12 universities, and those universities will typically compete against each other in all of the sports in their athletic programs. The type of conference is going to be really important because it will define your level of competition, the types of universities you are playing against, and typically where you have to travel to play your golf. Although in golf you don't always play against universities and colleges in your conference, you will ultimately be playing against those universities at your conference championship at the end of the year, and how you fare in that and ultimately the national championship, if you make it that far, will determine how successful your team has been in that year. In golf, as in sport in the US, there are 5 big conferences that typically dominate. These are called the Power 5 conferences, and it's made up of the SEC, the Big 12, the Pac-12, the ACC, and the Big 10. These are big conferences with big universities that have well-known teams and fantastic resources and facilities. Which conference is the strongest will depend on the year. Some years the SEC will have a really competitive group of teams. Other years you might be looking at the ACC or the Pac-10. Similarly, when you ask which universities are the best ones to attend, you're going to get a similar answer. There's a group of universities that often appear at the top of the leaderboard, but who is dominating in a particular year is going to depend on the team that they have available and the players within that team. But there are some names that appear near the top almost every time. Schools like Stanford, where Tiger Woods played, the University of Florida, the University of North Carolina, Princeton, UCLA, to name just a few, are ones that are top of the leaderboard for men's and women's golf year in, year out. Golf scholarships are merit-based scholarships, so you will be awarded a scholarship based on your potential contribution to the team. A coach decides how much that scholarship is going to be, and it can be anything from 0% to 100%, depending on how much he thinks you're going to bring to the table. A coach is limited on how many scholarships they can give out per team, depending on what division they're in within the NCAA or the other tiers of collegiate sport. In Division 1, for example, men's golf coaches can give out 4.5 full scholarships per team. So if you have a team of 10, 4.5 people can be on scholarships. Those scholarships don't have to be given to people in their whole. So it doesn't have to be 4 full scholarships and 1 half scholarships. It can be 10, 50% scholarships. In the women's Division 1 program, there can be up to 6 scholarships per team. As you go through the divisions, those number changes. So in Division 2, there are 3.6 men's scholarships per team in golf. And for the women's teams, there's 5.4 scholarships available. In Division 3, golf squads are not allowed to award golf scholarships, which is standard for all sports in Division 3. But there will be financial support available depending on your personal circumstances and depending on your academic achievements. NAIA does have scholarships available, and there'll be up to 5 golf scholarships per team within the within the NAIA. If you're looking at going to junior college, there will also be scholarships available, but these will depend on what kind of school you're looking at and their personal policy. Scholarships can be a difficult topic to approach with a coach, but it's really important that you have an open and honest conversation with them around what kind of financial support is available. You need to make a decision earlier on as to whether or not you need that financial support to attend a particular university or to even go to the US in general, and coaches will prefer it if you're honest with them about your personal situation and what your expectations are when it comes to attending their team and being a part of their university. Whether you like it or not, academics is going to be a really important part of the conversation or the process of getting recruited to the US on that dream golf scholarship. There are a few things that you need to be aware of, so let's jump in and run through them now. GPA, if you haven't heard of it already, is your grade point average. That's a benchmark that is set by the grades that you have in your country translated into an American equivalent, so that coaches and universities know what your academic level is or what your equivalent academic level is in the USA. To understand your GPA, there is a complex system in place developed by the NCAA that translates your international grades into a domestic US GPA. It sounds complicated, and it is, but luckily we've created a GPA calculator for you on summuscollege.com. Head over to our website, put your international grades into the system from wherever you are in the world, and it will spit out a GPA equivalent that you can take to coaches and universities and give them an insight into what your academic level is. That's going to be really important for you as you take this next step on your journey to that US sports scholarship. What do you need to know about academics once you're in the USA? Well, first things first, you're looking at taking a 4-year course, which is very different to the 3-year course that you might be looking to take if you are at university, say, in the UK. The reason why there is an extra year is that in the US, you have the opportunity to take what are called Gen Ed classes, or general education. US universities mandate that you have to have a broader education whilst you're at university. So whilst I was in the business school, I had to continue studying history and French for a part of my first year. Not the most fun, but a great way of keeping your kind of horizons broad and also meeting new people from new parts of the university. Whilst you're in the US, you will also have to pick a major and or a minor. This is your area of specialty in your studies. So if you want to become someone who focuses on marketing, you'd have a marketing major. A minor is something that you have as your kind of secondary focus. So you can major in marketing if business is where you're interested in spending most of your time. But if you have an interest in, say, French, you can minor in French. So you can be a major in marketing and a minor in French. The general education approach of the US universities and the major/minor setup means that you have a lot of flexibility when you go to America, and you don't necessarily need to make a decision today as to what you want to study when you get there. You can spend some time taking some general courses and figure it out once you get into your second year. So I hope that's given you a really useful insight into the US college golf system and some of the opportunities that are potentially available to you, as well as an insight into what you can expect from both a golfing and an academic perspective. This is a really exciting time for you, but make sure you give yourself plenty of time to explore this process and make the right decision. Typically, I recommend about 18 to 24 months to go from start to finish. That allows you to explore loads of universities, potentially make a trip out to the US, and make sure you have kind of a full spectrum of potential scholarship offers to consider. Give yourself plenty of time, do plenty of research, and really enjoy this process. I have 3 bits of advice that I'd give anyone going on this journey. Firstly, listen. Chat to people that you know that have been to the US themselves and try and learn from their experiences. If you don't know anyone, head over to our podcast, the International Student Athlete Pod, which you can find on Spotify or on our website, where we've got a fantastic episode with golfer Annabelle Fuller, English amateur women's champion who is currently at the University of Florida playing golf herself. A really excellent listen, and you get an insight into what life is like at the University of Florida. From there, learn. Go over to summuscollege.com, register for a free profile, and start looking through some of the guides, the tutorials, and some of the information that we have available for you on our site. There's loads to go through. Last but not least, discuss. Write down 6 to 10 questions that you've taken from our sessions today or the research that you do, and book a call with me or one of my team, and we will talk to you about your own experience, your own ambitions, and what we think is the right step for you as you explore the US collegiate athletic system. Good luck, and I'll speak to you soon.